It's going to be so nice, and the restaurant is lovely.
Bit of a treat. Get a nice view here. Shall I get some water?
Yeah, I'll get this water, please. Thank you.
My life is wine, and my wine life has taken me all over the world, from the tropical vineyards of Thailand to the finest restaurants in New York City. So what's a British wine man who used to sell wine to the Queen doing living in Sweden? I came for love with my wife Christina, and with a lifelong supply of tea, I bought my love of wine and sharing it with friends. In this episode, you'll learn how to become a world-class wine expert in just 90 seconds. We'll reveal what's happening in a restaurant when you're offered a wine to taste. You'll learn tips on how to crush ice properly and when to put it in your rosé, and much, much more. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Hey! Have you ever come across that thing where you want a really nice glass of wine, but your partner doesn't? How do you deal with it? What can you do to have a nice glass of wine when it's just you on your own? Actually, you only need 4 things. Number 1, you need a fridge. We've got a nice wine fridge here, but you just need a fridge because if you think about wine as being like a carton of milk, it lasts about the same time once you've opened it. White wines we put in the fridge, but red wines, exactly the same. Put a cork back in it, put it in the fridge, and then tomorrow when you come home, take it out when you start cooking, and it'll be the right temperature when you have your supper. But you might want something a little bit special. I've got 2 or 3 things here. I use one of these. I'm going to show you. This is a very smart piece of kit. So I'm going to go and use this. This is a special device that allows me to have 1 glass of really good wine. So we've got this needle in here. It's very sharp. I have to be careful with that. And so the idea is, what I do, lift that up here. That goes onto there, like that, and we press it down. So what I do now, are we ready? Is I press the button like that, and out comes some wine. And what it's doing is it's replacing the air in the bottle with argon, which is inert. So it's an inert gas, so that inside it's as though I've never taken any of the wine out at all, like that. So what I can do is I then pull that up, like that, and you've got it done. And in fact, what you're meant to do is to just give it a clean by going like that. And that is the Coravin, a very useful device. And I use mine several times a week, I think. That will last for as long as we need it to. And I can have my nice glass of wine, like, oh, that's good. Now, you can get other little devices. I have this one. This is a Welsh invention. It's called an eto. Eto is the Welsh word for again. And so you can have a glass of wine again and again. Eto, eto. And the idea is you lift the bit at the top, you pour a bottle of wine into here, and then every time you have a glass, you push it down, and then push it down. So it's always keeping this out of contact with the air. It's the oxygen, it's the air that's going to cause problems for the wine. And actually, I then go and put this into the fridge and then bring it back out again. So every time I want a new one, a new glass, I just bring that out, and I can have 3 or 4 days on that. Right. I could enjoy this wine all day, you know. This is really good.
Wine is something that you really can talk about for a long time. So sometimes you just have to wait and see when he's finished and can carry on the conversation with other things.
I better get back to my wife. I think she's waiting for this water. But actually, it reminds me. Has anyone ever talked to you about decanting wine? People talk about decanting a bottle of wine. This reminds me, because actually we should decant wine much more than we do. And you don't need a fancy decanter. You can use something like this. Well, you might want one. Let's have a look. This one. So you could just have a plain, empty bottle. That's fine. I mean, you might want something that's a little bit smarter. So let's have a look. What have we got here? You could have something like this, which is a very elegant sort of decanter with a nice broad shoulder. Or you could have something like this, which is a beautiful decanter. This is a claret jug, and it's got a thing. Sometimes people say it looks like a duck. Rather like that one. Or you could have something like this, which is a ship's decanter with a flat bottom. So if you're on a ship, it won't tip over. Although with this one, it comes with a special cork bottom that lets you swirl it round. Or you could have something like this. Just a minute. Just a sec. This, which is an electronic decanter. And in this one, you turn the dial and you set it running, and it bubbles pure medical grade oxygen through your wine so that it ages it in a couple of minutes. But I don't have a plug for that one, so I'm going to go back slightly to more traditional. I'll show you how you decant wine. So, are we ready? Why do we decant wine? There are 2 or 3 reasons. One of them is that sometimes old wines have a sediment, you know, that little dusty silt at the bottom. You want to get the wine away from the dusty silt. Sometimes you might want to decant wine to give it a bit of air, so it can stretch its legs, if you like. Imagine if a wine did yoga and it became a bit more supple and easygoing. That's a very good reason to decant a bottle of wine. You can decant white wines, and we probably should decant white wines more often. The reason I like decanting wine, because it looks really nice. I mean, when you have a nicely decanted bottle of wine, it all feels a little bit special. So you could just serve a regular bottle, or you could decant it. And then everybody will go, this is nice, they're treating me. I just want to gently pour this in here. Now I'm letting it have a little bit of air so that it will go and nicely open this wine up. Also, I can keep an eye, watch, I'm looking, particularly if I've got an old bottle of wine, to see if there's any silt that's coming. What you can use is a candle. So if you decant over a candle, it looks very, very romantic. Then, so romantic, my wife's getting a bit cross over there. You can see the silt coming, and then you can catch it just before the end, like that. In this case, though, it's not an old bottle of wine. I'm just going to go and decant like that. And then we have it sitting back here. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll just move these glasses here. To go and get lots of nice air in it, I'm going to present this on the table and spin. Isn't that nice? I do like this. You know what, I'm going to have to leave all this. I just remember I've left my wife. I'll be back in a bit. I really need to get back to my wife. However, I want to show you this trick. This is very useful. All sommeliers know this trick because it is the best way of making a rowdy, slightly squiffy, had a few too many drinks table go very quiet. So what you do is you give everybody 2 corks, like this. And you say to them, put your thumb and forefingers on the ends of the corks and pull them apart. Well, you can't do it. So everybody has a bit of a try like that. They say, can't you do it? Can't you just pull them apart like that? And they say, do it again, do it again. So everybody goes and puts their thumbs and forefingers on, and they can't do it. And then I say, like that. Now try it with your guests at home. It takes a bit of learning how to do it. There's no trickery involved. But the best thing is, for the rest of the night, your slightly rowdy table are all sitting there, trying to work out how to do it. And it's harder than it looks. Now, if you have a practice at home, I better get back, say hello to my wife.
Must confess, I'm really happy that Joe is so passionate about wine, but seriously, sometimes you just feel like we got a date night now, and it would be nice to just spend some time together and talk about something else.
to get some... Aha, this is what I need. I need to get some salt and pepper for mine. But, just before I go, is it ever acceptable, do you think, to put ice into wine? The answer actually is yes, it is. Sometimes it's even necessary. And not just with whites. Anita Ekberg, she would put ice into white wine, which people think is okay. But the really smart thing, well, what connects Princess Margaret of England, Bridget Bardot and Sean Connery? They all put lots of ice in their rosé, and there's a special name for it. I'm going to show you. This is a really lovely way to go and enjoy rosé. You need a big glass for this, and you need, oh, here we go, some crushed ice. And you want to put lots of crushed, like that. And put some extra bits and pieces in. In fact, you can fill it right to the top with crushed ice. And what they did, and there's a great dispute about this, it was said that Princess Margaret enjoyed it because it kept her cool, but apparently Brigitte Bardot, somebody said, would you like to have some rosé? And she said, yes, a piscine, a swimming pool full of rosé. So she put lots of ice in and then lots of rosé like that. And that's why you have the very big glass, so you can have an entire swimming pool of it. And I'm trying to remember, I think it might be in Casino Royale. James Bond, this is the Sean Connery thing, he drinks a pint glass, you know, like you would have for a beer, filled with icy rosé. It's nice, that, actually. It's very refreshing. But not just rosés, because what you can do is even do it with red wines. We tend to drink lots of red wines too warm, so sometimes it's nice to cool them off. And there are some light red wines, maybe like Beaujolais, which are even better when they're cool. But don't use ice, because what the ice will do is it'll dilute the wine, so it just becomes a bit too watery. Here's a little trick. Take some grapes, or interesting exotic fruit like this, freeze them, pop them in your glass, so that then, when you have a glass of red, particularly in the summer, and it's nice and warm, you add the red wine, and they will slowly melt, but they won't leak anything into the wine. It'll be like an enclosed ice cube, so you can enjoy a cool glass of red. Well, that's nice. And at the end, you know what the best thing is? You get a nice winey grape. It's like a little treat at the end of your meal. Oh, I like that. We should chill red wines more often. Now, take this, sit by the swimming pool, by the piscine. You can, if you want, make a piscine with just ice cubes, but the best way, the classic way, is with crushed ice. You don't have an ice crusher, you need a cloth like this, tea towel, and then I'm going to take some ice cubes. I'll just put them like that. You need a lot, so don't stint. Plenty of ice cubes. There we go. Put that away. And then what I'm going to do, take the corners, like this, go right the way down, and then I'm going to bash it. You can, if you've got a rolling pin, you can use a rolling pin at the same time, so you can go and have something that bashes. But the main thing is just to do a lot of bashing, and you want it really nice and crushed. I'm going to open it all up, like this, take my glass, little shovel, there we go, oh, that's it. And we can pop the crushed ice in like that. Ready to receive the rosé.
The food is delicious and the wine was very nice. It would have been even better if we just could enjoy it together.
I have an excuse to come away now because somebody's just poured me a taste of the wine in the glass. So what am I meant to do? Well, I'm meant to taste it. But actually you don't taste it at all. So why do people give you that little taste of wine that you go and taste? What are you looking for? Actually, it's not to tell whether you like it or not, it's to tell whether it's good or not. They're a different thing. So what I do is I have this wine and I go and sniff it. That's all you really need to do. You don't need to taste it at all. What I'm looking to see is if it smells, it's a chemical actually called 2,4,6-trichloroanisole. Don't need to worry about that. There isn't a test. And what it is, it's when people talk about wine being corked. Now, where does this come from? Actually, there's a cork down here. So here is a piece of cork. And what happens first is that you go and you graze your knee or you have a fall and you put some antiseptic on it, on your knee or your elbow. And then you take the little piece of cotton wool and you perhaps pop it in the lavatory and flush it and it goes away. Some of that antiseptic goes into the water and it goes out into the sea and it becomes a cloud, and there's minute quantities of it, and it falls on the cork forests in Spain and Portugal. Inside those trees are it's a little fungus, Trachyderma longibrachiatum, if you really want to know, and it has evolved a way of protecting itself against this antiseptic, and it creates this chemical, 2,4,6-trichloroanisole, which is very harmless, doesn't cause any problems, but it's really, really smelly. 1 teaspoon would go and fill the whole of Globen, the stadium, with this smell of wet cardboard. You know, if you've left a box in a garage or a cellar or your summer house for 6 months and you get this slightly damp, musty smell. That is the smell of 2,4,6-trichloroanisole. And sometimes, not very often, but sometimes it will appear in a cork. And when you sniff the wine, you'll go, that's not what it's meant to smell like, it's a bit musty. Well, at that point, you say to the waiter, you say, thank you very much, but I don't think this is quite right. And what you should have is a different smelling glass of wine, and it tastes nice. Now, it doesn't only have to happen with corks. You can get corked wine with a screw cap. It's not very common, but it does happen. You can get a corked gin and tonic, and that comes from the wax on the edge of the lemon that you go and have in it. So you'll find it in all sorts of places. Fortunately for me, this one smells fantastic, so I can go and say, yes, we'll have that one, thank you very much.
Well, I do love my husband, but since he can't stop talking about wine, sometimes you just have to go, and well, I will see Joe at home.
Here's the thing. Everybody wants to be a wine expert, and you can be too, actually. It'll take you 90 seconds, 2 minutes, and all you need are 4 letters. The blick, we call it, the blick. B-L-I-C. Go through them one by one. So take a glass of wine, do it now, get yourself a glass of wine. It's always time for a glass of wine. So when you're trying a glass of wine, there are 4 things you should look out for. Forget aroma. Forget trying to think if it smells of raspberries. Is it number 1? B, balanced. Is there a balance between fruit and freshness, fruit and acidity? Freshness tastes nicer. Good wines are balanced. L, is it long? Does it have length? Really good wines last longer. They might last for 2, 3, 4 minutes, an hour. Less good wines last for seconds and they go poof. Balanced, long, intense. Are the fruit flavours intense? Not big, but can you tell them precisely? Is it red fruits, or is it strawberries, or is it alpine strawberries? Very intense. C, complex. Good wines taste more complex, of more things. They taste of lots. You might not know them all, but you go, yes, that's very complex. So you can describe the wine that way. And if you can't do it, don't worry. Somebody says, do you like this glass of wine? Yes, I do. Why? It's beautifully balanced and very long. There's intensity to it, and it's very complex. You sound like an amazing wine expert. I told you you'd be using that. You'll be telling people that later on, I promise you. What you can do with the blick is you can take it another step. The blick is a very important thing in the world's most difficult exam. It's called the Master of Wine. I'm not one, I failed. And there are more people who've been in space than have ever passed the Master of Wine exam. It's that hard. And when you do your tasting paper, you do 3 exam papers where you taste wine, you use the blick. And what you do is you give 1, 2, or 3 to each of the bits. So you might say it's medium balance, so it's 2. It's got quite a short length, so it's got 1 for length. It is medium again in complexity, so a 2, so we're now up to 5, and it's got short complexity, 6. So that's halfway between, if you like, 1, which is not very good wine at all, and 12, which is amazing wine. It worked though. Once I was trying some wine, and I said, this is 12. This is really, really good. And other people disagreed, and I said, no, it's absolutely brilliant wine. I don't know where it comes from. It turned out it was worth something around, I don't know, what would you call it, 20,000 crowns a bottle, because it gets 12, because it's really good. So you can score all your wines. So actually 4 is house wine, 12 is the greatest wine in the world. All wines sit between 4 and 12. It's a good way of working with wines with the blick. 8, definitely an 8.